Good evening. Welcome to all of you guys out there in the interwebs. This is the Outpost, and I am your host, Legionnaire. We are here in episode 2 of the Outpost. So, welcome to my musings. I'm going to talk about a few things, catch you up on what's been going on with me, and we're going to talk about some stuff going on and some other things that interest me. I'm going to give it a few minutes here to see who shows up to say hello. But just to let everybody know, the Outpost is actually now recording from a new location, meaning that I moved recently. I'm in a new locale to do all this fun stuff. So for those who know, but for those who don't, just know that I'm still going to be bringing it to you as often as I can, whenever I can. So hopefully you'll be joining me more often and all the time. Subscribe to BGKH, and you will certainly get my musings as well as the BGKH show with Dominion and Epic. So yeah, check us out. Subscribe. You'll get alerts to when I'm going to be on. You'll get alerts, of course, to when they're going to be on. Um, so yeah, check us out. Check us out. We're going to be having some fun. I'm going to start out this version of the Outpost. We're going to be talking a little bit about She-Hulk. Season 1, episode 4, entitled "Is This Not Real Magic?" So to get an overall impression, I like this episode probably, but not as much as I've been liking it. Not to say that I'm still not liking it right now, but I am enjoying it. But there's some things that I'm kind of ready to see move forward about this show. So if you haven't watched it yet, just to let you know, this is not spoiler free. So consider yourself forewarned, forearmed. So we're going to go ahead and get into it and talk about this episode of She-Hulk. We start the episode with a magic performance at this mansion or magic castle or whatever it is. Seems that we have a guy named Donnie Blaze. See, I'm messing it up already because I'm thinking any relation to Johnny Blaze, whom, us blurs know as the Ghost Rider. But we don't have any indication that there's any relationship at this particular point, but it was an interesting name choice for this character. He starts out doing some relatively standard magic tricks, and the audience is pretty unimpressed with what they're seeing up until that point, until someone from the wings tells him to do the ring thing. The ring thing. So he pulls out a sling ring after getting before he gets a volunteer from the audience, Madison, spelled with Y and 2 N's. So she's a little inebriated. She's special. She's bringing the comedy. So after he tries another couple of tricks on her, that's when he decides to do the sling ring thing and opens a portal that ends up dropping her ultimately into the parlor of our current Sorcerer Supreme, simply known as Wong, who is at home enjoying life and watching The Sopranos, season 5, episode 12, it looked like, if I'm remembering correctly. As she drops in to Wong's very big surprise and sees that he's watching The Sopranos, she spoils the episode for him, which of course pisses him off. And then when she explains her situation, he's pretty sure who's causing the ruckus, who's causing the problem. So he knows that it's this Donnie Blaze, who apparently was a student at Camartage, but was kicked out. So he's sort of a dropout student of the mystic arts. But how he was able to maintain a sling ring after being kicked out, I don't know. We haven't exactly got that story. Maybe he stole it, whatever. But anyway, Wong understands that it's him. And Wong decides that this guy is going to pay for using, or certainly be held to account for using magic unlicensed. So then we get another scene. We get the next scene with Jen at home, and her father shows up, apparently having known that she has taken on the wrecking crew from last episode, and decides that he needs to beef up security for her home. I guess not understanding that she was never in any real danger from these guys. She kind of dispatched him rather easily last episode, but hey, he's being a dad, looking out for his little girl, and we can't be mad at that. Gotta love it. Uh, After that, we get to Jen being in the law office where she's creating or looking to create a matcher, a dating app profile at work. Apparently, Jen is interested in getting back into the dating scene. God bless her. Um, where she also has an encounter or a conversation with Nikki, who comments on her choice of clothing for, in the office. She's been wearing the same two-piece gray suit for a while, and she's wondering, hey, don't you have anything else? And Jen, of course, remarks that, hey, as a 6'7" tall woman, wardrobe is going to be a challenge. So, of course, that makes sense, but hopefully we'll get to see her in court in something other than that suit, since we know that we're going to see She-Hulk and other types of clothing and stuff like that. It'd be nice to see her in something else um, when she's doing her lawyer thing, as well as when she does the superhero thing. And at that point, Wong shows up because he wants to serve a cease and desist against Mr. Blaze for using magic unlicensed. That's apparently a big problem because clearly, he doesn't know what he's doing. He can get himself into trouble by not completing the training and things like that. And Wong is concerned about this guy running around using magic unchecked. So Jen asks, well, did he sign an NDA? No. Let's see. Did he sign any kind of non-compete? No. Did he have any kind of contract, anything in writing? No. Well, that's going to be tough. And Wong tries to explain that, hey, because of what we do, you have to be on some kind of honor system where you don't choose to do this. And Jen explains that, hey, well, we operate under system of law. So we have to find a way to legally do this, approach this, and have this done for you to get what you want. So they decide to go ahead and move forward with that. She's been in the bar later with she's in legalese later on with Nikki, and they're talking about they're working actually when some guy shows up to try to pick the two of them up, or at least offer them a drink, which they promptly dispatch. They couldn't be less interested in whoever this dude is. And they talk a little bit about Jen getting back out there and doing her thing, and she's working, she's focused on the case. And in the next scene, we see where she is serving Donnie Blaze with the cease and desist to use magic, and his answer is like, "Hey, you can't trademark magic. You can't tell me I can't use magic. It doesn't work like that. There's nothing illegal that I'm doing at this particular point, other than utilizing my skills, such as they are." So she's promptly dispatched, serving the cease and desist. Fails at that particular point. And we see a first date that Jen gets on Matcher with the guy, and that immediately goes left because clearly he's not exactly what she's not what he's looking for. He becomes less interested in what she wants, and he slips out, leaves her a check. Yeah, apparently the drinks where they were having their date was expensive. God bless you for paying it. Good on you, girl, because I don't know. I think I might have been on a dash, but hey, that's just me. Um, then we get go back to the court case. We have the court case, and Jen is starting to defend Wong's position, and we call on Madison as a witness. Which is comical in and of itself because she shows up and has to again explain that her name is Madison with the Y and two N's, and she spells it for everyone. And the case doesn't go very well because Blaze does some parlor tricks. The judge is not really buying that a cease and desist is something that can be done in this particular case. So yeah, he leaves pretty confident that the case is pretty much done. This is not something that you can serve against me, that you can do. I'm out. I'm gonna keep doing my thing. Um, Back home, Jen decides that she's going to create a matcher profile as She-Hulk to see if that gains any results. And of course, it does because, She-Hulk. And you got all these guys that are matching her, definitely are interested, definitely swiping right, or is it left? I'm not aware of these things, or something like that. But anyway, she's getting lots of interest. Um, so she comments on the perils of dating in her 30s. Um, Back at the magic show, or the next magic show with Mr. Blaze, he does the portal thing again with a new volunteer who is apparently a friend of Madison's and recalls um, what happened to her during this trick, and she's not interested. So he performs another trick, produces a bird that lays this beautiful egg, and the egg hatches, and it's some sort of demon, which of course freaks everybody out. So he's decides to dispatch it into another portal. Of course, this is where everything goes left. He dispatches this thing into the portal, doesn't close the portal, and not only does the creature comes back with some friends. So he's opened this demonic portal. These demons are pouring out. So of course, who does he have to consult for help? He has to go to Wong. So he goes to Wong, tells him what's going on. Wong, of course, has to go and help and dispatch these things, and tells him to contact his attorney. Tries to call her, that doesn't work. So Wong opens a portal in while she's in the middle of her date with this hot doctor, somebody that she clicks with. And then the subsequent date is going well. They get frogs and go back to her place. Things are cooking. The attraction is there. And just when she's about to go in and go for hers, Wong opens a portal, tells her what's going on. Of course, as a superhero, she's got to go help out. So she goes to help out Wong, all the while complaining about the fact that, hey, you interrupted a date, you're interrupting my life, but hey, I'm here to help take care of these things. Wong is admonishing her to, hey, focus on what we're doing. I understand that you got shit going on, but girl, this is what we need to be doing right now. So she dispatches the demon with Wong. Well, she helps Wong to dispatch the demons with Wong's help, or he dispatches it with her help, however. And there's one last demon that apparently has gotten bigger, and she uses that demon to threaten Mr. Blaze and his buddy Gordy. I think his name was Gordon, and lets them know that, hey, you want to reconsider signing this cease and desist, or do I let my friend here have that conversation? They decide that, hey, maybe it's a good idea to sign the cease and desist. We're gonna go ahead and move forward. Hey, I'm done messing around with real magic. It's clear that I don't know if he's clear that he doesn't know what he's doing. I think just for the sake of what's going on, he's gonna go ahead and sign the cease and desist. And so that's how that case wraps up. Excuse me. Okay, sorry about that. Had to check on some things here. Wong drops her back off with her date, the hot doctor. They have a night of passion, of amore, kicking it, whatever. It's all good. Apparently, Jen gets up the next morning, cooks old boy breakfast, makes him some fresh orange juice, and Nikki contacts her because, of course, she wants all the dirty details. Hey, let me know what's going on, girl. And in the meantime, hey, just know that just got some information that this Titania, who is a influencer, is now free. You remember Titania from the first episode, and she's been mentioned a couple of times throughout the series. So now apparently she's out of jail, and Jen should know that. So she clicks on the TV, sees what's going on, and in the meantime, Hot Doc sees her in her Jen form, because of course they got it in while she was She-Hulk. But now that he's met Jen, he's certainly, unfortunately, less impressed and decides to bolt and leave behind his sweater. So of course she's a little disappointed, but hey, it's the dating world in her 30s. After that, there's a knock at the door, and it seems that she's being served with a summons, or she's being served by a process server. She's being sued by Titania for use of the name She-Hulk. She's like, wait a minute, you all gave me that name, so it's my name. What do you mean? She said, well, she apparently trademarked it, and because she trademarked it, you can't use it. And that's how the show ends. So now, next episode, of course, we're gonna probably or hopefully see Titania and see how she deals with this lawsuit. And I'm kind of glad because we've been seeing Titania, or at least we saw her in the first episode. We've been hearing about her or having her name dropped out there for, a few episodes up until this point. So I'm glad that we're getting into the space where we're hopefully going to have an actual villain that's going to be working through this show and coming up against She-Hulk. So I'm interested to see what they do with the character. Of course, it's going to be probably quite a different backstory than what we got in the comics, but they're certainly setting up something that could be a rivalry between the two of them, especially if she's trademarking and claiming the name of She-Hulk. Jen is probably not going to want to give that up at this particular time. Um, so we'll have to see what happens. So hopefully we're going to be back on the upswing. We'll be seeing a little more action. Certainly hopefully there's going to be a little more of a villain established in this show. It's been good so far. This one was kind of probably, it was as funny, but not quite there as the other episodes for me. So let me know what you guys think. If you happen to take a look at the broadcast, let me know what you think. I'd be curious to know what you guys are thinking about it. So yeah, I'll be back next week and we'll be talking about season 1, episode 5 of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. All right. I'm going to talk about a couple of other things here. Just some of the musings of the things that I like to watch that I think will be interesting and I want to put out there. One is The Amazing Race. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the show, it's on CBS. And what they do is they assemble a bunch of teams and they're couples in various relationships. They like to say sometimes they're married, sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're dating, sometimes they're family. So they assemble 11 to 12 teams of 2, and they basically race around the world. They're going to different locations. They have to perform different tasks and things like that. And at the end of the line, the team rather that crosses the line wins $1 million. So they're now in season 34. Yeah, they're in season 34. So normally what they've done has been something like 2 seasons per year or something like that. But yeah, right now they're in season 34. I'm pretty excited about it. I always like to see what kind of couples that they bring in. Of course, being a man of color, I like to see people of color that are competing in these things. As the same gender-loving individual, I love to see when they bring in gay couples. They've actually had several gay couples, 2 of which have won. Season 4, which was very early in the show, and I want to say season 32, there was a couple that won. I think the first couple that won in season 4, they were supposed to get married, but they didn't. They didn't stay together. But I believe the couple that won in season 32, I believe that they're still together and married. So that's really cool. We've had a black gay couple that competed. They had just got married, if I'm not mistaken, and that was in season 33, I believe. It was during COVID when they actually decided to do a season. They got interrupted and then restarted. So this black gay couple, they were in there initially, but they didn't come back when they had to restart it. So we didn't see how they might have done. In this season, we actually have, if I'm not mistaken, our first lesbian couple. So that's going to be exciting to watch. We have what appears to be 2 Latinx couples. We actually have several African-American couples. I think there's a father-daughter, brothers, newlyweds. The newlyweds look pretty interesting. She appears to be a lot taller than them, so their visual dynamic is kind of interesting looking. I'll call it that. I won't call it funny because it's not necessarily funny. It's just interesting. Her being a taller woman. And we actually do have a couple of interracial couples, which doesn't happen very often on this show, but it was really cool. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. The season starts on the 24th of September. Again, it's on CBS, so I'm sure you can watch it on your CBS locations or probably on Paramount Plus, um, where they'll be viewing those episodes so you can see them uninterrupted. So hopefully, those fans of the show will check it out. Let me know what you think. Um, Also, that's going to be different in this particular season. Normally, they start off in someplace in America, whether it's been Chicago, LA, something like that. For the first time, they're actually going to start the race overseas. So this time, they're going to start in Berlin, I believe. I think they're going to start in Berlin, and then they always end the race back in America, and they're going to end this season. I believe it's going to be in Nashville. So this is the first time I've ever really paid attention to that. But I know that that's kind of a different thing than starting in a foreign location. So hopefully that'll be interesting how they get that going. So again, Amazing Race 34. Check it out. I'll probably be commenting on it. Let me know what you think. It should be fun. Um, the last thing I'm going to talk about right now is a show that I don't watch necessarily, but I like to follow to see what kind of people they have on. And this is Dancing with the Stars. I probably watched this show really, really early in its inception. I thought it was interesting, but I quickly lost interest in it. Um, I think I only ever really pay attention to it to see who's going to be competing, from one season to the next. But this season really caught my interest because dancing this year, we have Shangela. For those of us who are RuPaul Drag Race fans, Shangela was a big presence in the history of that program. She competed on 3 different occasions, and she's gone on to do a lot of big things in the show business industry. She did a web series with Jennifer Lewis, who she's good friends with. She's done movies, she's done TV. She has a show on HBO. I mean, she's doing all kind of stuff. She's really out there doing her thing. And I know a lot of people talk about Dancing with the Stars as being a show that has like has-beens, but I definitely don't consider her a has-been. I mean, she's definitely out there doing her thing. And this is just another point of exposure for her, and I am here for it. It might actually make me watch, especially when I see all the other people that are going to be in there. Wayne Brady is competing this year, who I kind of have a love-hate relationship with, but I think he'll be fun to watch. Jordan Sparks is competing this year, so it'll be cool to see her. Jason Lewis, for those of us who love Sex in the City, who played Smith Jarrett, Samantha's young boyfriend who made it big in Hollywood. He's going to be competing, so that should be interesting. And Selma Blair. I mean, I knew that Selma Blair had some health issues, but I didn't know exactly what it was. But apparently, she's been challenged with MS, but she's been going through some recovery and treatments and things like that. And apparently, she feels that she's well enough to compete. So you got to kind of have a little bit of love for that. So I think I may actually watch at least a couple of episodes. If for nothing else, I'm a fan of Shangela. So pretty much will check out anything that I know she's in. So we'll have to, excuse me, I'll be checking that out. And we also have a legend, I guess depending on what your definition of a legend is, but we're going to have Cheryl Ladd, who was, of course, famous for being one of Charlie's Angels. She played Chris Monroe, the little sister of Gerald Monroe, who, of course, was played by the fabulous Farrah Fawcett. So, yeah, she's stepping up to compete this year. I guess she's been asked before, but decided that now is the time for her to do it. So, yeah, going to be looking forward to that. So, this is an interesting cast that caught my attention. So definitely going to be checking out maybe a few episodes of that. So that should be fun. Should be fun. And I'll probably be talking about that a little bit too. One more thing I want to talk about before we sign out for the night is I am a reality show junkie to in a lot of respects. I mean, I like the competition shows. I find those very interesting. Survivor, The Amazing Race, like I said, sometimes Dancing with the Stars, RuPaul's Drag Race, things like that. Um, but I want to talk in particular about Big Brother, which is a CBS show. Normally comes on in the summer and ends in the fall. Um, the premise of the show is that they have a bunch of strangers that they put in the house, isolated from the outside world, and they have all these cameras trained on them in the house to record their goings on 24 hours a day. And in the course of their staying in this house, they, compete for different prizes. They have somebody that has to be what's called head of household, and the head of household gets their own private room for a week. Um, and then they are immune from being eliminated. And as a matter of fact, they have to nominate two people to be eliminated. So there's somebody that's kicked out of the house every week, and they're responsible for nominating that person to be eliminated. Um, in the course of that week, from the nomination to the eviction, there's what's called a veto competition. So the veto competition gets held, and the object of having the veto is that you get to either remove one of the people that are being um, nominated for eviction, at which point the head of household has to choose a new person, or you can choose to just leave whatever the nominations are the same. So it's all about the social interactions, the gameplay, the politicking, and all that stuff that goes on to determine how and when people get eliminated. So on elimination night, they all vote except for the two people nominated and the head of household. The head of household will vote in the event of a tie vote. Then they have to make the decision. But otherwise, those three people don't vote. Everybody else does, and then they get eliminated, and then it goes on and on and on and on. But what I want to talk about in particular is in this season we've had something interesting come up with one of the team, one of the guys that are in the house. For those of us who watch the show religiously, like I do, last season we had a group of contestants band together, and these contestants were all people of color, predominantly Black, I believe. Yeah, I think one girl was not actually African American, but they were all people of color, and they all decided to band together in a secret alliance called the Cookout. And this was the first time in Big Brother history that something like this has happened. So this group, kind of moved themselves through the game and did things to protect each other through the game and made it all the way to the end so that one of the folks in the cookout actually won. And it was a great thing to see for people of color who compete in this contest. Um, it was really cool that they all teamed up to do this and, were able to go all the way to the end with this alliance in place. And, one of the people in this alliance actually won. So fast forward to this season, um, we have one of the guys named Kyle. He's a white guy from, I can't even recall where he's from. But anyway, I guess the upshot of it is he's having a conversation with another the contestants, another white woman, and he's talking about the cookout from last year. So being paranoid about something like that repeating itself, he pitches an idea to, or at least the beginnings of a thought to this other woman to say, hey, why don't we put something in place to counter that possibility? And she's feeling kind of like, I don't know about that. But, he puts it out there and, thinking that, hey, so that we're not um, being, taken over or whatever, his idea, he's implying that, they create a white alliance, even though he doesn't call it that. He's definitely he's definitely implicating it. So he's putting it out there and saying that, hey, the implication would be that, they start eliminating the people of color to kind of prevent, a repeat of last year. And as a fan, it was like, I don't know if this is a conversation that should be had, but it rolls on, it keeps going, and the show keeps moving. And we're more than halfway now. And throughout the show, there's been a guy, Michael, and Michael is LGBT, which I kind of like. And he's been actually dominating the game. He's a super fan. He's been winning the competitions, winning the veto competitions, been head of household a couple times. He has been rocking the show for the most part, and I can't be mad at it. But something happened recently where he was going to be in danger of being eliminated, or at least being targeted. Um, so what he does is he moves on with this woman that had this conversation, and they decide to share with the rest of the house that this guy Kyle has been having these conversations that aren't necessarily racist, as at least in my opinion, they haven't been racist, but certainly have been racially motivated, which is certainly problematic. So they kind of drop these little nuggets out there that these conversations have been happening. They talk to the contestants of color, let them know, and they're saying, "Hey, thank you for bringing this to our attention. You know, maybe you all need to be the one to reveal all this stuff since this is what you're doing." And so they drop it to the rest of the house and have this big confrontation where Kyle is trying to defend himself. Not well, I don't know if he's trying to defend himself. He's saying that the conversations happened, but he didn't understand the ramifications or the effect that the conversations were having on the people that were around him. Um, so ultimately, because the people of color were kind of cringing and everybody else kind of had some cringy feelings about it, they vote Kyle out, which I can understand. And they were trying to have a conversation with this guy to kind of say, hey, you really need to think about what it is that you're saying, what you're doing. Hey, Eccentric, how you doing? Good to see you. Thank you for being here. But my challenge with that is, understanding that this is a game, and the dynamics of the game have to be, not only winning the competitions, but you would also have to, you also have to have a social game, which is also a very important component of it. And I just felt a little icky about them using this information in order to eliminate Kyle. Because it's one thing to say, hey, we have this thing going on, this racial thing going on, where we want to put it out there and we want to address it as a house or whatever. But I can't help but think, hey, you all seem very strategic in sharing this information a few weeks down the road. You didn't share the information when it happened. You didn't share the conversation when it happened. But coincidentally, when Michael was being potentially threatened, now it seems like now is a good time that you all want to drop that nugget out there. And that to me is a little self-serving, because you can't sell me on your altruism when ultimately it looks like you did this in order to further your gain. And yes, Eccentric, the guy did last year, he did win last year, and he was the first person of color to win. Um, Yeah. So I mean, the idea was that the people of color from the last season, they really wanted to have an alliance that wasn't necessarily against the white folks in the house, but they wanted to do it in a way where, as people of color, we want to support each other and create an opportunity for somebody of color to actually win this game, which in and of itself is very noble, which is really cool. So I'm thinking, yeah, that was really nice, and the possibility of that happening again. Yeah, I mean, I can understand the concern around something like that, but then to kind of take it that next step to say, hey, we want to create an alliance of white folks to gang up on the people of color and get them out. I don't know. I just have some issues with that. I mean, I know there's been a train of thought to say that this is a game and you need to do what you got to do to get ahead and to win. But I just don't buy it. I mean, it's like, why do you have to cross that line? Why do you have to cross that line to say, hey, you know, to call the boy a racist? Now, I don't personally think that Kyle is racist. I think that the conversation had racial overtones. Absolutely. And Kyle himself even acknowledged it. He lives in a sheltered town, doesn't have clearly stated that he doesn't have a whole lot of exposure to white folks, I mean, to black folks or people of color. And I get that. And he's on the apology tour since he got kicked out. All of his interviews have been like, oh, I've taken on this self-reflection, and we don't know if that's going to really happen or not. I mean, he can go back to his little town and be like, fuck all the people of color, whatever. But it just seems like, okay, why don't you take a look at what they did and how they did it? Because sometimes it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And I just feel like there was more motivation to do this in order to forward their game, as opposed to creating a situation where they can have some dialogue and have a conversation. Because I'm pretty sure that if Michael hadn't been threatened by possibly being nominated for eviction, I don't think that conversation regarding Kyle, I just don't feel like that would ever have happened. Because if you didn't mention it in the 2 weeks um, between the time that it happened and now, what is the motivation now to mention it and bring it up? And I just don't think that's cool. I mean, there's a train of thought that says that, hey, morals are not important in this kind of game. You just want to win the money. I don't buy that either. There has to be some line that can't be crossed, and I don't know if there needs to be a rule or whatever, but there has to be some account to playing the game that way. And I think when you're playing with sensitive race issues like that, I just don't think it's a cool way to play the game. I really don't. I don't support it. I don't care for it. Now, as a member of the LGBT community, it's nice to see a gay contestant that's doing well. That's nice to see, but I can't stand behind that particular piece of his strategy. So that's just how I feel. I wanted to put that out there. I've been following, like I said, I've been following this show from the very beginning. It's one of my summer faves, along with So You Think You Can Dance. Those are two my summer watches. And so yeah, I just kind of felt the way about that. So I just wanted to share it with you guys. Hope you found it interesting. Um, yeah, eccentric. It was a very different vibe than last year. Um, and again, I think it has more to do with the fact that because it's definitely a different look when you have people of color who want to band together to make sure one of them win, which is very rarely, um, which hasn't been, well, not really, but what hasn't been the case in this game. I mean, they tend to be eliminated pretty quickly. And we had a situation this past year where we had a good number of people of color in the house. So it was just like, hey, there was opportunity. But to take what happened last year to create this paranoia about it and then try to take action against the people of color specifically, it was just icky. I just didn't care for it. But we'll see what happens. I still would like to see Michael win. I think he's doing very well, and he's pretty. I think he's a decent representation of gay men, although not necessarily gay black men, because he's white. But yeah, it'd be nice to see someone from the community step up and win that 750,000 dollars. So those are my musings for this week. Um, For those who are watching, thank you for being here. Thank you, essentially, for saying hello. It's good to see you. Hoping that I'll see you in Florida. Um, Come in and check me out next week. Again, if you want to reach me on the interwebs, I'm Legionnaire Onyx on Facebook, Legion Onyx on the Twitter and Instagram. And again, thank you for being here. Thank you to Epic and Dominion for creating this opportunity for me to run my mouth for 45 minutes or so. Um, Again, thank you for being here. Good night and take care.